Hi, everyone. It is Jennifer Finalstein. Welcome to The Social Academic. I'm here today with my friend and one of my business partners, Brittany Trin. We're talking about personal academic websites, research lab websites, websites for academics. Brittany, would you say hi and introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself since you've already been a guest on our show?
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Tren. Yeah, I feel like the last time I was on your show was maybe in like 2020 or something like that. It
Yeah,
was a
it's
while
been a
ago.
long time. Oh my goodness, it's been that long. And we've been friends ever since. Brittany, you were at my wedding this summer. So, yeah, I can't believe
Yeah.
how time has flown by and your life has changed. You're back in grad school. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I was working and running my side business as like a website designer at the time when we met. But since then I had started grad school in 2021. I am now a PhD candidate in chemistry at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Amazing. I really like how you reached out and introduced yourself to me in the very beginning. I felt like there wasn't a need to be in competition with each other. Like it was so nice to be able to have someone to talk with about something that we both care about, which is having an online presence when you're a scientist or someone who's in academia. And also, just like we've been able to work together and partner together
Yeah.
on some fun projects.
Yeah, when I first started getting in the online space and I like heard about you, saw you, at first I was kind of thinking like, oh, we are kind of like competitors in a sense that like we have like similar services and things like
Yeah.
that. But after I thought about it, like and kind of like learned more about the space, I figured at the time we had kind of like slightly different audiences because like you were still like kind of more targeting professors and like people who are like further along, whereas I was trying to target with like graduate students and like earlier career. But obviously, since starting grad school, a lot of my side business, like web design stuff, has kind of been put on the back burner. I'm still like kind of working on it here and there, and like I love collaborating with you as of late. So that has been a really good kind of like easing back into like the web design business.
That's really fun. And I love hearing about your grad school experiences on social media. What was it like to kind of start sharing that part of your new lifestyle um, in your online space? That was kind of different from how you were showing up before.
Yeah, when I was showing up before, I was mostly just like sharing a lot of tips and information on Twitter at the time. Um, and uh and that worked for some time, but once I got to grad school, I was like, first of all, I don't want to just be known for websites anymore. But I also like had to take a break because I wasn't really sure about like my scientific identity yet. Um
Ooh.
yeah, I because I just started grad school and like even though I had worked in industry for some time, starting grad school made me feel like a beginner again. And actually it took me probably like the last 3-ish years or so to finally feel a little bit more confident about posting things on social media regarding grad school. Because for me personally, I just didn't really want to be like just like a PhD influencer. There's a lot of PhD influencers and, like,
Yeah,
like, I follow them too because I like their content, it's, like, motivating and things
of
like that.
course. Yeah.
Um, but there's just certain aspects of it that, like, I didn't really align with, and I
Mm.
didn't want to create that type of content, and so it took me a really long time, up until maybe, like, last year to finally figure out like, oh, actually, I still do want to talk about some things about grad school and about like being a scientist, being in STEM and all that, but it just looks a little bit different than how a lot of people are currently doing it. Because a lot of
Mm.
people are also kind of like science communicators. So they're like communicating their research, which is great. But for me personally, that wasn't exactly something that I wanted to do.
Oh, that's so interesting because the way that I see websites is like kind of part of science communication, at least for scientists. Like it's a way to
Mhm.
communicate who they are and what they're doing. And that's something you're so great at. And it's totally okay that like it's not an interest of yours when it comes to the other areas of your life. That's so interesting to me. I'm curious if you're open to it, would you share with me like what aspect of influencer life maybe didn't appeal to you? Because there may be people who are listening to this who are considering the same thing, and hearing your thoughts might be really helpful for them.
Mm, yeah, I guess for me, a lot of it was just like hearing um like the over romanticizing like the lifestyle was one thing that I wasn't really a fan of. Um
Mm.
especially without context. Like I love the aesthetic, right? Like I when I was like in high school, I was like obsessed with like study aesthetic and everything, right? And so I get it. It's very appealing to see that type of content, but I think that like when you create that type of content and you share that without kind of sharing like the context in which like a PhD program happens, I guess, what goes on in a PhD program, it can be a bit deceiving to say the least. Or like
Ooh.
just a little bit I don't know what the exact right word is, but like I just didn't feel like that's something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um and And I think that, like, it's a good thing that, like, they're inspiring younger people or, like, anybody who wants to, like, pursue a PhD. Like, I think that's good to be a source of inspiration. But I think that for me, I didn't want it to just be, like, an aesthetic look, like a lifestyle.
Yeah, I absolutely understand that. And what's interesting to me is that like if I came across your channel and didn't know that you like didn't want to be an influencer, I would think that you're quite realist in what you share about your PhD life. And you even have a podcast about like what it's like to be in grad school. And I really think that there's a difference between influencer in terms of the intention of creating partnerships and brand deals, and maybe
Mm-mm.
even gaining a certain type of following for being an influencer in that space. And then also just having influence over a space because you're more open about sharing your story. And I think that your openness is really refreshing because you do share maybe some of the negative experiences too, some of the struggles and some of the highlights. It feels very real every time I check out your social media stories. And yeah, I don't know. That's so refreshing for me. What was that like for you to kind of decide to actually start posting about these things?
Yeah, so that was kind of hard, actually. Yeah, for the first like 2 years, I think the way I described it to people was that I felt like I was kind of in a shell. I was very
Mm,
withdrawn because a lot of like my PhD struggles took up a lot of my mental capacity. And so I just really didn't have the desire at all to show up and like to be seen and honestly to like be that vulnerable to so many people online and to show them like, oh, I'm like struggling because like a lot of people again, like I mentioned, like were set up the aesthetic. Like everyone looks like, oh, they're having such a good time in their PhD, like they're accomplishing so much. Like why don't I feel that way? Like why am I not
mm,
doing XYZ? Um but what I realized recently was that I guess I could go through like those times, but like I didn't have to share it in real time, right? Like I can still share it now, and which is
ooh.
what I'm like learning to do right now, which is like part of the this project I'm like working on for my podcast. I'm like trying to write a series or like make an episode, whatever series of episodes is what I was trying to say of like all the different struggles I've kind of gone through, and kind of sharing like my thought process through that and kind of like what I did, what I wish I did differently, so that hopefully people who listen to the podcast or future people who encounter the podcast can learn from it and can kind of see like I wouldn't say like the bad side of things, but just kind of like these are things that like people don't want to openly talk about. Um,
Mm.
and I think that it does take time to kind of get over it so that you like have like fully processed it in a way that you can like talk about it in a more meaningful way than just like I guess like venting about it, because I never really want to come off that way, even though in real
Yeah.
life, like in the moment, I'm just like, oh my God, this was so stressful. Like, why are things like this? you know? Um, but like when I talk to other people, younger students and things like that, I try to like, I have to like actively reframe it in my mind. Like, okay, how do I make this like useful or helpful to them? Or like, how can I like, what
Mm.
can I take away from it? Right. Like, how can I improve through like this experience? Which has been happening a lot recently.
You've been doing more mentoring yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been a lot of mentoring in terms of like in the lab. I'm on like I've had 4 undergrads so far and I have 2 right now. So and then I like also do some mentoring, but like they're like um first year students. So when they come in, they have a lot of questions about like, how do I join a group? How do I talk to a professor? Like, which group should I join? And like, what are things I should look out for and stuff like that. Um, but whenever I give advice, I always preface it with like, this was my experience. Like, cause I never want to come off as like, I know everything, but I'm just being like, I'm just sharing my experience and you can take away what you want to take away from it. Um, and I feel like that's the same approach I have for my podcast as well.
So who should subscribe to your podcast? What's it called and where can people find it? That was too many
So
questions
my
at once. Sorry.
it's okay. My podcast is called Beyond Your Science, and it's available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And it's really for any like graduate student, early career scientist who wants to like explore the the intersection between like science, creativity, and entrepreneurship. And so those are some of like the core pillars I talk about on my podcast. Grad school is just like a part of it for now, just because I'm in it. But that's not like I'm not giving like advice on how to get into grad school or anything. Um, but one thing I really would love to focus on more in the future is kind of like small businesses in STEM. Just because like I think that's like a really niche area that we don't really hear a lot about when we're in grad school. Because we're in grad school, we hear about becoming a professor or going to industry. And we also actually hear a lot about like people going into like startups and entrepreneurship and stuff. But at least on the grad school level, I haven't really heard a lot about people like choosing a small business route after grad school. But like because of getting to know so many academics on online over the years and seeing kind of where they've gone, a lot of them have started like their own businesses and things like that because of like the flexibility, the freedom to do what they would like, to pursue like their own ideas. I think those are all things that like we as graduate students we really value. And so I kind of want to show more people that like this is a possibility for you if you like
Mm.
consider it, if you could consider it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's really exciting for me to hear. And that's kind of like the first time I'm hearing about this too. So I love that you shared that. Now, I'm curious, how has your thinking about websites changed since our last interview? It's been a while. I know we've worked on websites together. Like overall, how has maybe your thinking changed over time?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. Because let me tell you, when I first started, I was just like, I had just gotten out of undergrad and I was starting my job and I, was trying to convince like grad students to create websites for their work. And at the time when I started like 4 years ago, before coming to grad school, I was just like really baffled because I was like, why don't you want to create websites for your work? Like, why aren't you proud of your work? Because like you're doing cool stuff and you're like super qualified, but no amount of like me encouraging them could really get them to change anything, right? So I would just be like, oh well, like whenever you're ready, like this information is here for you, right? um but now that I became a grad student, I understand why. um
Oh,
and
wait, tell me a couple of reasons why, because there's definitely grad students listening to this that are like, I think that might be me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because like I have my website, right? And my website has like all my website design stuff, my podcast stuff. But like for the longest time, I didn't really want to talk about my research at all. I didn't want to like
Mm.
share it with people.
What's your
I just
research on?
So my research is focused on polymer chemistry. Specifically, right now I'm learning or developing a method to make up this polymerization more environmentally friendly. Before that, I was like learning about like how polymers can be made stronger and tougher for like high impact materials, kind of like
Ooh.
aerospace equipment, military equipment, things like that. Um, yeah, so I'm just really interested in like polymers and how their mechanical properties are useful. But now, right now, mostly focusing on like how to synthesize polymers in a more eco-friendly way.
I
Um,
love that. And I love the environment. So that's my favorite. I'm curious, what about that felt like you wanted to hold it back or hold that part of yourself back from sharing on your website? And have you shared it?
yeah, so I think it was because I just didn't really have like the tangible result to show because I didn't have a paper. I still
Mm,
don't have a paper, you know, like I'm a fourth
yeah.
year student, PhD candidate. I have no papers. It's like just reminded me of that Pride and Prejudice. I'm 27 years old and I have no prospects. You know, like
I love
that's how
it.
I
We're
feel.
both readers. We both love classical music. Brittany and I are good friends, and there's so many reasons why.
Yeah. But seriously, like that's like the reason why I feel so I don't want to say ashamed, but like just a little bit like hesitant to be like, oh, like this is my research. Like I haven't published anywhere, you know. I like maybe
Mm,
presented at a conference once, but like that work is unpublished. And like I don't know if that will be published anytime soon. Um, and so like all those reasons combined, plus like just like the way that just the by the nature of the PhD experience, I just naturally feel more inadequate than before.
imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like, oh, well, all those reasons combined makes me like not want to own up to it, I guess, like at least professionally. Like it's easy for me to just say like, oh, I'm a graduate research assistant, you know, cuz like yeah, that's what I am like on paper. But to be like, oh, I'm a
Mm.
scientist, like, oh, I don't really know about
It
that. And
feels
then
like
like
a stretch, even though that's not true. Like you're mentoring future scientists already, you know?
yeah, like I'm doing science, more
Yeah.
science than like a normal person does, right? And so like even if I like don't feel that way, like I am already doing it. That's kind of like what I had to tell myself. Yeah.
So did
But
you put it on your website?
so I finally did put it on my website.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I because I was like, oh, my bio has like nothing about chemistry. So
Mm.
it's just in like my bio. It's like a little blurb. I probably should have read this. It sounds more like eloquent. It says, Brittany's a PhD candidate in chemistry. Her research focuses on synthesizing high impact polymers in a more eco-friendly way and leveraging their tough mechanical properties into industrial applications. And it was really hard to kind of like condense what I do into like a couple of words that are easy to understand because
Yeah.
on one hand it felt like I was oversimplifying, but on the other hand I was like, well, I'm not going to go into the details. Like if someone was really interested, like they could ask, I guess. But like that was also really hard because I was like, it makes it sound like what I do sounds really like, I don't know, like noble and great, but like I don't feel that way on the day to day. You know what I mean? Or at least
Mm.
I assume like a lot of graduate students probably feel some type of way about their research.
Oh my goodness, professors feel that kind of way about their research. Let me tell you, it does not, that feeling of being unsure about how you're talking about your research and the things you care about most, like that doesn't go away when you become like a mid-career researcher or a senior researcher. And you might even struggle to talk about it the way that you feel when you're retired. So I think that it's something many people struggle with it. And I love
Mhm.
that you shared what you wrote with us because it sounded great.
Yeah, I used your tips from like a previous podcast interview, I think with Dr. Eka Rivera.
Ooh, I
'Cause
will share that in the notes or description of this video for
Mhm.
anyone who is listening. We do talk about how to write an amazing conference speaker bio that's great for academics writing any kind of bio. So I hope you'll check that out. Now, your online presence has changed as your new life experiences and goals have popped up. One of the things that you did was redoing your website, and you just
Mhm.
talked about adding in that bio. Um, what prompted you to like want to redo your website? I know as website designer myself, like that's a project I've been putting off for so long. I need to do it. So what prompted you to do it?
Yeah. Well, for me, I guess, like, for the longest time, I had, started with, like, all my services about website design or, like, workshops about website design. And then as was realizing, like, I don't really have the capacity to do this anymore, I started, like, making those pages hidden. I didn't wanna, like, highlight that anymore. And then, um, just, like, throughout grad school, I realized, okay, I don't really know if I want to just, like, leave it open for website design right now. So I kind of want to just like make
Mm.
it very clear that I'm trying to build my personal brand instead. That like my personal brand still includes like website design tips, but that I'm not like actively soliciting new clients. Um, and I think that has really helped because now on my website, it's just like me um, featuring my podcast, which is like my main mode of sharing and building my personal brand through the podcast and also like LinkedIn newsletter. Um, and then also kind of just like repackaging some of the things I already had, some of the resources I had, so that it's still useful to people, but like it's just more organized. Um, and so I finally did that like a couple months ago, I think. And I also did a podcast episode where I talked about like the process of me, like, deciding to do that, but again, it was also something that I had, like, put off for, like, the longest time too, because like, yeah, school, life, all the
Life.
other things come first.
Exactly. Sometimes we have to prioritize all the other things, and it's okay to put off the thing with your online presence as long as you need to. I love that Brittany made that list because it meant that when she was ready, she knew what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now, we have done, since we last did our interview, two annual Best Personal Academic Website contests. It was so fun to be able to share some amazing websites from grad students, postdocs, early career researchers, um, people who were in research labs. Oh my goodness, there were just so many people who
Mhm.
were curious to submit to this contest. Would you be open to doing another one with me next year? What do you think?
Yeah, I love doing it. I love seeing, like, how people, like, show their research, show themselves, like, through their websites. It's very interesting to see how people interpret also, like, website tips and then, like, implement it
Yeah.
on their website too. And I think also because we do it with, Owlstown, and Owlstown is, like, made for academics, I think it's really fun to see how people, like, still are able to customize it to, like, their own needs.
Right. Brittany and I are both like designers. And so we're thinking about like every little detail. But for so many people, all you need is a website. And it's
Mhm.
totally amazing that Dr. Ian Lee has created Alice a free academic website builder that you can easily make your website in like, what is it, like 15 minutes? I mean, it's really fast. We
Yeah,
did on
it's,
that
like,
call.
very, like, fill in the blank type of and that's what I tell, like, I told this to, like, the grad students in my department too. I was like, "If you guys need a website, like, just use this. It's, like, so fast and easy, like, you don't need to think about, like, the design, you know?" Um
Yeah, even if you do eventually want that fully designed website in the future, if you know it's not on your list this year or next, I mean, make an Alstown website. It will create a stronger online presence for you like today.
Mhm. Yeah, and I also met, I think, Ian around the same time I met you or, like, reached out to him around the same time, and, like, I also had to test it out for myself before I recommended it to people, and so when I tested it
Mm,
out, it was, like, in its early stages, and even in its early stages, I was like, "Wow, this is, like, really good," and then, like, over
nice.
time, he, like, started developing, like, more features and things, and I was, like, sold, like, this is so, like, good now, you
Right?
know?
I love how
Um
responsive he is. If you have like a question about it or a suggestion, some kind of feature that you want to see, if he thinks it'll help people, he'll try and make that feature happen. It's so cool.
Mhm.
Now, research lab and group websites, that is something we've been teaming up on for VIP days where professors get a done for you website in one day. I mean, seriously, we gather the materials in advance. We have a planning meeting. We talk about things like website aesthetics and colors and stuff and what you want. But then Brittany and I and my husband Matthew, we team up and we create the website for you in just one day. Oh my goodness, Brittany, teaming up with you on this has been amazing. It's been so transformative. I'm honestly shocked by how much we've been able to get done in one day.
Mhm. Yeah, me too. I think it's really nice to like work in a team like this because before I had just been working on my own. And
Right?
I think like the workflow of like gathering all the content beforehand helps so much because then like you know what like needs to go on the page and it makes everything go by so much faster.
Exactly. Now, we can totally work together if you're looking for that bigger, done for you research lab website. Brittany and I may still be able to help with that. But Team VIP Days is what I recommend for most research labs,
Mhm.
especially if this is going to be your first website. It's not like a redesign. So we only have a couple days left in 2024, but please reach out about the new year. We would love to work with you and help your research lab or group. Brittany, what should people know about their research lab website or group website? Like, do they need one? Like, who should consider this kind of service?
Well, definitely like if you are a professor who's like actively recruiting students, like you definitely need a website because I remember like even when I like was looking for groups and such, or even like students now, when they're coming in and they're looking at professors, they check the website. They go and see like when was it last updated? Like are students graduating? You know, like are is your group still active? Because you know the student like wants to is trying to prepare as much as they can to know about the professor so that when they meet the professor like they can talk about the research or ask about like active projects and like how they can get involved or talk about like what skills they bring to the table and things like that. But it's going to be kind of hard for them to do that if like there's no website or if like you just have like a very kind of broad like research statement, you know, like on your faculty page or something. Um but also the other thing is that students like may be interested in like the general area of research, but they may not know exactly like what the research work entails. And like, you know, maybe some people will be like, oh, just read the papers. But like in all honesty, like a lot of students like when they're coming in, they're like very overwhelmed with like, you know, enrolling in classes, teaching classes, like looking for a group, you know, acclimating to their new city. Um, Trying to also parse out which papers are relevant to current projects at the moment is also very difficult. So I think like I really advocate for professors to have this on their website, which is to have like a very clear or like recently updated projects page with like publications that are like most relevant or recent, so that like the student can like easily pick out like okay, let me read like the update on this and see, you know, where what they're doing right now, where could I fit in and things like that. So definitely professors of any age that wants to like get get students interested in their work and especially like younger professors because I think like now a lot of younger professors are like they're trying to build a personal brand, you know, and everything in addition
Yeah.
to like their research. So
This is a great use of startup funds. You can pay with your university monies. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you are interested in having a VIP Day website for your research group or lab. Brittany, it has been so much fun to have you back on the Social Academic Podcast. Is there anything you'd like to chat about or add before we wrap up?
no, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed working on the VIP days with you because it lets me like still be a part of like the helping academics with their websites, but kind of like more on the back end of things. Because that just helps me as like a graduate student right now because I'm just like not able to do like the front facing stuff at the moment.
Yeah,
Um
we're perfect partners on this. And, Michaela, Dr. Michaela Kudre, whose research lab website we did recently, we just had like a workshop with her research group. And she said that she now feels like her online presence is a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. It's a 10. And her
Mm.
website is a huge part of that. It makes her feel really good about her research and it makes her lab really excited to help share it. So
Mhm.
I'm just so proud of the work that we've been able to do together so far and excited for all the work to come.
Yeah, me too.
Brittany, where can people connect with you online on social media?
Yeah, so you can visit me at my website, brittanytrend.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And so my last name is Brittany. Well, first name is Brittamy, last name Trinh. And then on Instagram, you can also find me. It's BRTTNYTRNH, which is
Oh, it's
just
your
my
name
name
with
without the vowel.
no
Yeah,
vowels.
I guess
That's
unless
easy
it's
to
a Y is a
remember.
vowel, I don't know.
I
um,
will link to it below any video where we have it, and the bio will be at the bottom of the blog post so people can definitely find you. Brittany, thank you so much for coming on today's show.
yeah, thanks for having me, Jennifer.